All right, let's get started. So, in the last video, I went over the celestial sign that the Holy Spirit revealed to me that is described in the book of Acts, chapters 27 and 28. And I just want to, in this video, sort of go over it in more detail, more thoroughly, because I really think this is a huge sign. I think it's the final sign of the age, and it's kind of like this sign that's guiding all the believers at the last moments into the rapture, right? So before I really get into the sign, I have to explain some numbers because you have to know what these numbers mean, like what the meaning of these numbers is, to make sense of stuff that I'm going to say later. It also makes the stuff I'm going to say later more impactful. So first of all, you've got this number 84, and so the word dedication. So first of all, Hanukkah means dedication. So it's described in the book of John, chapter 10, as the feast of the dedication. Okay, because in Hebrew, dedication is Hanukkah is the Hebrew word for dedication, Hanukkah, right? And the name Hanukkah comes from, well, I should say it's the same Hebrew word as Enoch, right? I think it's like the Hebrew name for Enoch is Hanuk. So you can hear the similarity there. Anyway, so in English, simple ordinal dedication equals 84, okay? And then in Enoch in Hebrew gematria, I think just simple Hebrew ordinal is also equal to 84. So, and then I'll mention this, the current official Hebrew year is 5784. Which is interesting because you've got that 84 on the end there, kind of maybe hinting at Hanukkah, something Hanukkah related. And this is pretty crazy. So the first occurrence of the word dedication in the Bible is found in Numbers chapter 7, verse 84. So you got your 784 there. Kind of rhymes with 5784. And if you watch my last videos, you know that Methuselah, whose name was a prophecy, of the flood, because it means his death shall bring. His name in Hebrew gematria is 784, right? So when he died at age 969, the flood came that year. So 784 is a very significant number in God's scheme of things. So, yeah, so 84, you should think of Hanukkah, right? So 84 sort of implies Hanukkah. So the next number is number 345. So right off the bat, so instead of looking at the word dedication in English, ordinal was 84. If you look at English Standard, it's 345. Okay, so right off the bat, it's already got somewhat of a Hanukkah connection there. And then if we look at the sort of the structure of the number, if you look at 345, you'll notice that it's 15 degrees shy of a circle, of a 360 degree circle. Okay, so if we take that 15 and we pull that out and times that by 23, you get 345, right? So 23 times 15 is 345. Now if you do 23 divided by 15, you get 1.533333, and that goes on forever. So that number also has this fundamental arithmetic or mathematical connection to 153. And the other thing is, we've been looking at Hanukkah also because the time of Hanukkah is described in Haggai chapter 2, where it's talking about the 24th day of the 9th month, which is, it's not the first day of Hanukkah, but it's the first, Hanukkah is celebrated at sunset. So that first sunset you would celebrate it would be the 24th day of the 9th month going into the 25th day, right? So that's relevant to Hanukkah. And then it talks about taking Zerubbabel, his servant, right? Which is rapture hint or typology. We've gone over this in previous videos. So Zerubbabel in Hebrew Standard is 241. and the 241st prime is 1523, or 1523, and if you do 15 times 23, it equals 345. Just pretty much the same as up here where I was doing 23 times 15. So there's all these like kind of numerical connections, and there's really like I could do a video for like probably a 12-hour video going over all these crazy numerical connections, but I'm really trying to pare everything down and keep it as condensed as possible, just to give you the most important information. Okay, so then if you look, this number should be familiar to most people who knows anything about biblical gematria. It's one of the most famous numbers. It's 2368. And why it's famous is that Jesus Christ in Greek is 2368. So if you do 2368 minus 345, it equals 2023, which is significant because, in my opinion, in God's eyes, it's still 2023. Either till the end, I write here because when they created the Gregorian calendar, they added some days, and by this century, it's like a 13-day difference, right? So on the old Julian calendar, it's still 2023 until January 14th, right? So January 13th of this year, okay, next week, would be the New Year's Eve if we were still going by the old Julian calendar. That they replaced with the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so I think it's still 2023 in God's eyes, either because of that or because December is the 10th month, right? Not the 12th, really. That's sort of if you listen to the name of the month, right? December is Deca, right, which means 10. So there's the 11th and 12th, presumably after that. So. And those would still be in that same calendar year as the first 10 months, right? So then I think 2023 could conceivably last until March 1st. And in fact, they used to celebrate in Europe in like the Middle Ages, they used to celebrate New Year's on March 1st. And they had to pass laws to get people to actually respect the January 1st date. Anyway, so you've got that. And we're currently in the 4,345th year since the flood. So you got your 345 there. That's according to my chronology, which I've shown in previous videos. So other chronologies probably have a different result, but that's according to my chronology. 444, which is representing Jesus and the door, or Jesus as the door. Minus 99, which is rapture. The English word rapture in simple ordinal equals 345. And there's actually another reason why the number 99 is associated with the rapture, not having to do with gematria, and I'll explain that later in the video. Okay, and then this is something that usually gives you interesting, or I should say meaningful results. A lot of stuff's hidden this way. So if you add a number to its inverse, or if you subtract its or I shouldn't say inverse, reverse, like it's a mirror. If you add it to its mirror, you'll get something interesting. If you subtract it from its mirror. So if you add 345 to its mirror, 543 equals 888, which is Jesus in Greek, Iesus or something. So, and there's more. So, there actually are probably about 5 times as many as I'm listing here in terms of significant, meaningful associations with this number. But I'm like I said, I'm trying to keep this short. So the first occurrence of the number 153, which, as we all know, refers to the 153 large fish caught in John 21:11. The first occurrence of that number, 153, in pi, straddles the 345th digit of pi. So if you go to the 345th digit of pi, you'll find that's actually the 5, right, of the 153. So the 153 is right there. Okay, and so that's just one of the so-called transcendental numbers. There are actually at least two that I'm aware of. But the two main ones, the two popular ones, are pi and e, right? E as in E equals mc squared from Einstein. So you can search for things in pi. You can also search for things in e. Now, if you look at the 345th digit of E, that straddles 602, and Strong's Greek 602 equals apocalypse. Okay, so the first occurrence of the number 345 in E ends at digit 276, right? And that's the 276 souls mentioned in Acts chapter 27, verse 37. The 345th verse from the end of the Bible is Revelation 3:10. And that's the famous verse, which is the promise to the church in Philadelphia. Behold, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So that's the rapture promise to the church of Philadelphia. Okay, and then the 345th verse of the book of Daniel is Daniel 12:1, which is, at that time shall Michael stand up, and then there shall be a time of trouble such as never seen since there was a nation, even to that time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So another rapture verse. And the 345th word of the Bible is light. Okay, and the rapture is the separation of the light from the darkness, so to speak. That is actually found, that 345th word is found in Genesis 1:16. And Strong's Hebrew 3974. 3 plus 9 plus 9 plus 7 plus 4 is 23, referring to 2023. Okay, so the next one is okay, so first of all, 345, yeah, so 84 means Hanukkah. 345, I just want to show all of these sort of connections to rapture. I don't know, I'm not saying that 345 means rapture, but there's definitely some sort of strong connection to the rapture event. With the 153 and then the Zerubbabel connection, which was a huge hint from God about sort of telegraphing the rapture in Haggai chapter 2. Haggai chapter 2, by the way, has 38 verses, and 38 is Hanukkah in Hebrew ordinal is 38. In Hebrew ordinal it's 38, and Hebrew standard it's 83. So 38 or 83 from the Hebrew gematria standpoint implies Hanukkah. And Haggai chapter 2 has this rapture typology involving Zerubbabel, involving Hanukkah, because it's mentioning the 24th day of the 9th month, and it's also that book has 38 verses, which also telegraphs Hanukkah. So there's a lot of Hanukkah going on there. But yeah, so 345 has to do with the rapture. I'll just say it that way. And sort of perfectionist here. So let me just move that to the next page. Okay, so number 119. So the 119, this is the number, in my opinion, that is most closely tied to the book of Acts. So it's almost like if the book of Acts had a number that repped it, it would be 119. And there's a number of reasons for that, and I'm only listing a few of the reasons here, okay? So 276, the number 276, which is made famous by the book of Acts, is and is found in Acts chapter 27. The 276th verse of the Bible is Genesis 11:9. Okay, so you got your 119 there. 276 is also found in Acts chapter 27, verse 37. Now, if you do what I did before and you add 27:37 to its mirror image, 73:72, you get 10109, right? And in numerics, it's all about perception. So you can drop the zeros, you get a 119 there. 2737 is also 23 by 1 times 119. Not an accident at all. Now 23 you'll find as you study the numerics, Bible numerology and stuff. It's a very commonly used divisor to that sort of reveals a lot of hidden meaning. Okay, so in this case it's used and it's hiding the 119 that's sort of inherently built into the number 2737. Okay, the next thing is that, as I said, I'm sort of obsessively compulsive with getting everything everything looking right here. So I wanted to add those bullet points. So the book of Acts has exactly 1007 verses, okay, which is 888, which is Jesus, plus 119. Not an accident. That's 1007 verses. That's also a 17. And we know 17 is famous because the 17th triangular number is 153. So 17 and 153, that's all the B'nai Ha Elohim, the sons of God. So those are the numbers that refer to that concept. Okay. So if you look at the number, so yeah, 119, when you see that, you should think the book of Acts. Now, if you just look at the numbers in 119 to sort of figure out, well, what does this number mean? You got your 11 and your 9, and the 11 means chaos and trouble and tribulation and stuff, and disorder. Because it's right. The reason God did that is because it's right one less than 12, which is perfect government, right? So it's like missing the mark from that. So you get without that perfect government of divine government, you get chaos and trouble and disorder, right? So that's why 11 means 11. It also means, if I recall correctly, no, I'm thinking of something else. Okay, so and then there's 9 means finality or judgment. So when you get 11:9 and you just look at it from that standpoint, trying to glean the meaning from that, it's something like final chaos or trouble, right? End tribulation, great tribulation, right? So in that sense, that's what 119 means. But I think there's a deeper meaning, and that comes by looking at the number in binary, okay? And then also is going to explain why Acts 27, specifically that number, chapter 27, is significant. So what I mean by binary is, so we all know how computers work, right? They use internally, they use binary. You have you have bits, and bit is can either be on or off, right? It's either going to be 1 or 0, right? So I don't know. Hopefully you guys are somewhat familiar with that, and I don't have to explain it. I'm sure you can go look it up later. Anyway, so if you look at binary numbers, now we're looking at what they look like, okay? Because it's about perception. So if you look at the number 101, okay, well, what does it look like? You've got a 1 on either side, and you've got an opening. Like the O is kind of like a door, right? So you've got like walls on either side and a door. So that's what I call the binary door. And if you keep on, if you want to keep showing a door, you can either make the door bigger or you can make the walls bigger, okay? But you want to have, the door has to be in the middle, okay? So you can add a 1 on either side, okay? Or you can add 2 1s on either side. Now, if you do this, so the 101 in binary, if you convert that to normal decimal, right, the normal numbers that we use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that converts to 5, okay? Now, if you add the 1 on either side, binary number converts to 27 in decimal. Now, if you add another 1 on the other side, you get 119. You can keep adding 1s forever. You're going to get bigger numbers. But these are the main ones that God uses to signal, to sort of numerically signal the rapture, right? Or I should say the door to heaven is probably a better way to say it, right? The way out, the exit, the way out of here. So 5 is often used in this regard. That's why you have the rapture described in Revelation 12:5, because that's 125, which is 5 cubed. Okay, 5 times 5 times 5. This next binary door is 27, which is why we have this heavy rapture sign being, located, I should say, in Acts chapter 27. There's a whole bunch of other stuff too. You can say that the New Testament, right, which is the way to heaven, right? You're not going to get to heaven through the Old Testament. The New Testament has 27 chapters. So that's sort of right there, signaling that's the door to heaven, the New Testament. Okay, because it looks like this in binary. It's a little door. And then 119 is just, when you keep on adding the 1 on either side. That's that. So that's how the number 119 also represents the door. So on the one hand, like I said, it represents chaos and tribulation, because the Great Tribulation is starting. But it's that's for people who aren't believers. For people who believe in Jesus Christ and trust in His deliverance and love Him, they're going to be raptured. They're gonna get the good side of the 119. They're going to get the binary door, right? The door to heaven. And unfortunately, some people have to be cast into tribulation. Hard-hearted people. So there you go. That's the binary door. Now, like I said, you can actually do 3 zeros instead of the 1 in the middle, like a kind of a wider door. And the first one that pops out of that scheme is 17, which we know represents the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the sons of God. Not an accident. Okay? And the next one is, if you add another 1 on either side, you get the number 99, which represents the rapture. And that's reinforced plenty of ways if you look at numbers in biblical numerology. And if you just, like I mentioned before, if you just look up, just wanted to make sure I'm still recording. Yes, I am. Good. Yeah, if you look up the word rapture in English in symbol ordinal, it equals 99. Not an accident. Excuse me. Okay, so having said that, we got those numbers defined. So now we can talk about the sign. The Malta sign, or the 276 sign. Okay, so now let me show you the sign in Stellarium. Now the sign occurred on December 27th going into the 28th. So right between Christmas and New Year's. And there are 3 aspects of the sign. So the first one has to do with Acts 27 verse 37, where it talks about 276 souls. It's kind of a random number to mention. So the reason God mentioned that number is because he's referring to, actually, it's a hidden way of referring to this celestial arrangement, okay, or celestial configuration. If you're on a cell phone screen, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to see anything here. Because on the left side is where what I'm about to show you is, and it's in really, really small text. So you'll just have to take my word for it and maybe watch it later on the desktop at home in full screen. But if you click on stuff like planets and stars, you get information here on the left-hand side. Now, here I am in Jerusalem, and this is set to December 28th. This is 3 in the morning, and the sun is right by the center. Well, I'll describe that. I'll describe that in a moment. So the sun is right over Sagittarius. I'll just say it like that. And I clicked on it, so I get this information here. And so the sun is exactly at that point in time at 276 degrees of ecliptic longitude. So that's the same as the 276 souls, right? Mentioned in Acts chapter 27, verse 37. So what does it mean, ecliptic longitude? So it's just a way of measuring. So if you imagine the Earth, if it had a ring around it like Saturn, or if it had a hula hoop around it or something, if you projected that ring or hula hoop out into space, so as an imaginary plane, that's what the ecliptic is. Okay, and so that way you can measure on that plane the point on it in terms of degrees, like 360 degrees, so like where you are. So when the sun goes around the Earth, so to speak, right? You can see that, or relatively from our perspective, you can sort of map it where it is by a degree, by like, is it 90 degrees or is it 270 degrees, whatever. That's what the ecliptic longitude is. So at that moment, okay, 28th of December, 3 in the morning. Now, this is going to be on the east coast of the United States, or anywhere in the United States, I should say. It'll be still like the 27th of December, sometime in the evening. So yeah, it'll be 276 degrees of ecliptic longitude. So either, depending on where you are in the world and your time zone, it's going to be either on the 27th or the 28th. So that's the first part of the sign. Now, on the other side of the ecliptic, which is what this orange line is, by the way, that's the ecliptic. On the exact opposite side, you'll find the moon. And the moon is in Gemini. Now, this is described in the other chapter. So it's Acts 28, verse 11, where it talks about another ship. So that, they're shipwrecked on the island of Malta, and they're talking about this other ship that also wintered there, that came from Alexandria, and that ship has the sign of Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux is the twins that that refers to Gemini. Okay, so Gemini is just another name for that. So this constellation Gemini, the twins, that's Castor and Pollux. So that was the other hint. So the first hint was in chapter 27, verse 37, giving the 276 souls, aka 276 degrees of ecliptic longitude. And the other hint is in chapter 28, verse 11, telling you about Castor and Pollux. Excuse me. And so what happens on the 28th, the 27th and the 28th, I should say? Well, on those 2 days, and only those 2 days, you've got the moon, which is pretty much a full moon at this point. That's the 27th. Here's the 28th. So the moon is in Gemini, aka Castor and Pollux. Only those 2 days. If you go back to the 26th, it's not there. If you go forward to the 29th, it's not there. So just like the other one, where the 276 degrees is, depending on your time zone, is going to be either the 27th or the 28th. This is also the 27th and the 28th. And you probably noticed by now, those are both reflective of the chapter numbers of Acts that refer to the sign, right? Acts 27 and 28. Not an accident. Okay? So the only 2 days when the moon is in Castor and Pollux, aka Gemini, are the exact same days that the sun is going to be at 276 degrees of ecliptic longitude. And by the way, I've checked going forward and backwards like 10 years, because the sun is going to be at the ecliptic longitude of 276 degrees every December, right? Every December 27th or 28th. So that's nothing big, but the question is how often does that happen at the same time when the moon happens to be in Gemini? The question is not, the answer is, I don't know exactly, but I checked the last 10 years and then going forward 10 years, and it didn't happen. And so assuming that, we're all operating under the assumption that the rapture is going to happen sooner than 10 years from now. So if this sign is applicable to the rapture, which I believe it is, I think it's, I think it means that it's very, very close. So if somebody wants to, they can go check further than 10 years ago and further ahead than 10 years from now, just to see how often it happens. But so yeah, that's that. And then the third aspect of the sign is simply, it's not really technical, but the narrative of Acts 27 and 28 is about a ship voyage. Okay, and so the upper part of Sagittarius, where this 276 degrees, of ecliptic longitude lies, the blue constellation lines here, it resembles a ship. Okay, so again, not the orange line, that's the ecliptic, but these blue lines, So you've got a ship, and you've got the foremast and the aft mast and the center mast, and that's another connection, right? Sort of like a symbolic connection to the fact that we're talking about a section of scripture that is referring to a ship voyage, and this sign is referring right above what looks exactly like a ship. And uncoincidentally, I'll say, when the sun is at 276 degrees of ecliptic longitude, it's right there near the center mast, almost dead on it, which I think is also not an accident. So yeah, so that's the sign, I guess, in a nutshell. I'm not sure if I missed anything. I hope I didn't miss anything to explain this. And so this sign, this celestial arrangement, okay, is what that of chapter 27 and 28 in the book of Acts is referring to. It's referring to this celestial arrangement that happens, that is going to happen 2,000 years in the future on, December 27th and 28th, okay? So that just happened like a few days ago, a week ago. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out here, and I'm going to go way out so you can see the whole ecliptic, that orange line, as a circle, okay? So you can get a better idea of what I want to show you. If you look at the top here, so this is where the sun is when the sign is being fulfilled, okay? So because it's so bright, you can't really see, but right behind it is Sagittarius, or where my mouse pointer is. Okay, and then over here on the other side, the exact opposite side, you've got Gemini, aka Castor and Pollux, with the moon in it. Okay, and these are so Gemini is the third constellation, okay, according to the Jewish scheme, according to God's system, and then Sagittarius is the ninth constellation, according to that same scheme. And then you've got Aries at the top here, okay, which is the first constellation. So this is according to, I think it's Exodus 12, right at the beginning of Exodus 12, where he says this is going to be the first month of the year to you. And then he goes on to describe the Passover lamb. Now, I explained in previous videos how God's calendar works. It gives you a different calendar than the official Jewish calendar, which is off by in most years by a month, approximately a month. Okay, and I explained that in previous videos. So, for instance, in 2023, it was off by a month. I believe in 2024 as well. So Hanukkah hasn't happened yet, even though they think it happened, not according to God's calendar. So like I said, Aries is the first month. It's up here. Now Aries is up here, and Jupiter happens to be right there by Aries. So you got Jupiter in the first month, right here at the top. And then you've got the third month, Gemini, where the moon is. And then you've got over here on the right side, Sagittarius, where the sun is. This is the sign of Acts 27 and 28, right here in front of you. This is the configuration that is the celestial arrangement, that's being described there in a hidden way in those chapters. And I made a graphic to sort of describe this more easily visualized way. Okay. December 27th going to the 28th, 2023. This red line here sort of visualizes that ecliptic, like I was trying to show you in the way I was trying to show you. Okay, and then the cross there is, I hope you see what I'm getting at here. Okay, what this sign, the celestial sign, is showing you, right, or showing us, because you've got the third constellation, which is kind of like what was just over here on the left side. Okay, and then you got the ninth constellation over here on the right side. sun in the right and ninth constellation, and the moon in the third constellation. And at the top, you've got Aries the Lamb with the king planet, Jupiter. So what you have here is a celestial depiction of the crucifixion. Because if you overlay a cross over that, you see, where the head would be is like where, is the top part, right? So that's Aries the Lamb of God, being sacrificed for the sins of the world. And to sort of confirm that notion, you've got Jupiter, the king planet, right there. And then you've got on the third and the ninth constellations, is like if you had your arms stretched out, right? That's where your arms would be pointing to on a circle. You'd be pointing to the 90 degrees and 270 degrees. So that's amazing. That's what that's showing there. And also, Jesus was on the cross from the 3rd hour to the 9th hour. So that is also being signaled here in this configuration. And then I have a little note here: the sun at 276 degrees. So, by the way, this ecliptic longitude thing, it doesn't go clockwise. I made another picture just to show you. I had to make one because I couldn't find anyone online, existing ones, but it's like this. It doesn't go, normally you would think 0 degrees and then 90 degrees would be over here, but no, it's kind of backwards. So you have the 0 degrees, that's where Aries would be, 0 or 360 degrees, and then over here on the left you've got what was it, Gemini, right? That's at 90 degrees. Actually, to be honest with you, this ecliptic longitudinal system doesn't have 0 degrees at Aries. It's like somewhere over Pisces, but I'm just trying to give you the idea of how the degrees work. It's counterclockwise. So you've got it going counterclockwise, 90 to 180 to 270. Okay, so there you go. Let me go back to my my little document here. Okay, so I explained that and I showed that the 3rd and 9th constellations. Okay, so that also is another reason why it's in Acts 20. Excuse me, why it's in Acts 27, because 3 times 9 equals 27. Acts 27. Also December 27th. Why it happens on December 27th. This is God's world. He created it. He created the sun, the moon, and the stars, and everything is. And He ordained that calendars would turn out a certain way. That men would create and change calendars such that they end up exactly the way He wanted them to be. So His plan works out perfectly, and you see that reflected in the numbers of the calendar day that it occurs and everything. So another thing that's hugely relevant right now is the book of Esther, because that's also relevant to the rapture. And the 39th prime number is 167, which is the exact number of verses in the book of Esther. And now, kind of bringing full circle, pardon the pun, my previous mention of the number 345, which has this rapture meaning behind it that I showed. If you look at the ecliptic like a clock, if the clock hands are at the 3rd and the 9th hours, then what time is that? That's 3:45 p.m. or a.m., right? So that also plays into that 345. Okay, so well, obviously the rapture didn't happen on December 27th and 28th. So that is a mile post or a mile marker, right? Or a sign in the road letting you know that, the exit is near, but it's not the actual exit. So naturally the question is, well, when is that exit? Well, I don't know for sure, but I can take a guess. I did notice that my last video length was 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 53 seconds, and I believe that was a sign from God. The reason I think that is because that 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 53 seconds reduces down to 11:53, which just happens to be the 191st prime, and 191 just happens to be the 43rd prime, and 43 just happens to be the 14th prime. So I thought, oh, God's telling me 14 somehow. And then I had a few other instances of 14s popping up in my perception in the last few days, which I think are just more confirmations from God. So I thought, well, maybe a 14-day tarry. Does Acts 27 or 28 mention anything about a 14-day tarry? Well, actually it does. Totally explicitly in Acts 27:33, right here. And while the day was coming on, Paul besought them all to take meat, saying, "This day is the 14th day that ye have tarried and continued fasting, and having taken nothing." So you've got an explicit mention of a 14-day tarry right there in Acts. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so then if you so they get shipwrecked on the island of Malta, and then they end up at Rome. But between Malta and Rome, you've got a bunch of I guess references to time or to number of days in between those 2 points. And if you add up all the times between Malta and Rome where it has a number followed by day or days, you get Acts 28 verse 7, that's 3 days. Acts 28 verse 12, that's another 3 days. Acts 28 verse 13 is another 1 day. And this should say 28, not 18. Acts 28 verse 14 is 7 days. And if you add that up, that's 14 days. So there you have a double confirmation there. Pardon me while I fix that. So we have this 14-day tarry potentially from the 27th, from the actual, day that the sign occurred, the celestial sign, Malta sign, whatever you want to call it. So there are some more clues we can find. If we look at Acts 28:11, which, if you recall, is the verse where Castor and Pollux sign is mentioned, that's verse number 27,911 of the Bible. The 27,911th verse of the Bible, which is no surprise there for that number because you've got your 119 hiding there backwards, and you've got a 27, right? Referring back to Acts 27. Okay, so if you do a little bit of gematria on this verse, so you take the verse in Greek, Acts 28:11 in Greek, and you look at the Greek gematria. The standard value is 93:14. That's the actual standard Greek gematria value, which gives you 2 numbers. You get the 39, which is, I think, a numeric reference to the sign itself, because remember, it's the 3rd constellation and the 9th constellation. And then you've got that followed by a 14. So, yeah, that's, I think, saying 14 days after that sign, which happened on, like I said, December 27th going into the 28th. Interesting side note, if you look instead of the standard value, but I think it's the reduced value, gematria value, it equals 1007, which is the exact same number of verses in the book of Acts. Not an accident. None of these things are accidents. So the next thing is that this verse here, Acts 28:11, states the ship whose sign was Castor and Pollux. And a couple things stand out to me. The first one is this verse is calling Castor and Pollux a sign. I mean, ostensibly it's saying that that was like the ship's sign. I know it was painted on or etched onto the ship or something, but it's not lost on me that the meaning of the other meaning of the word sign. You know what I'm saying, right? That God's referring that sort of tongue in cheek, as a sign, right? And we know now that this is a celestial sign. This whole thing here, this whole setup. That word sign is a single use word, only found in this one verse of the Bible, and it's Strong's Greek 3902. Okay, G3902. And this is just like the gematria of the verse, right? Because you've got a 3-9 referring to the actual Malta sign, because you've got the third and ninth constellation, and then you've got an O2. Well, what does that O2 mean? I think it means 2 weeks. So you got 14 days, or you can also write that as 2 weeks. So I think those clues are just confirming what we already saw, which was, the 14-day tarry that's mentioned in 2 different ways in Acts 27 and 28. Now, if you add a 14-day tarry from the 27th and 28th of December, that produces the date of January 10th, crossing into the 11th. So that's the middle of Hanukkah on the corrected calendar. Remember I said that their calendar was off. So let me see if I can pull it up here. Try to zoom it in just a bit. Okay, so this is a spreadsheet that I've been using that helps me a lot. So you have on the left-hand side, you've got the Gregorian date, okay? And then, so for instance, right now it's the 5th of January, or this row right here. And then you've got the official Jewish calendar on the right. So today, officially, it's the 24th of Tevet. Actually, it's the 25th, because over there in Jerusalem right now, it's already past sunset, way past sunset. So they're already in the 25th. And then in this middle row, you've got God's calendar, how the calendar should work. And so it's Kislev 22, 22nd day of the 9th month. So 14 days forward from that Malta sign is January 10th going into the 11th, which is Kislev 27th going into the 28th. Or it's the last day of Tevet on the official Jewish calendar. So this is all going to be very important. So take notes of these dates. You got Kislev 27 going into the 28th, which, by the way, is pretty astounding because, once again, we've got the 27 and 28 reflected here in these dates. If these should be the dates, if these should happen to be the actual dates for the rapture, the sign itself is happening as on the Gregorian calendar as the 27th goes into the 28th, and then the rapture, if it happens as Kislev 27 is going into the Kislev 28 on God's true calendar. Very interesting. So like I said, this is actually Hanukkah, okay, on God's calendar. So on God's calendar, Hanukkah starts on the 25th, but it really starts right as the 24th is going into the 25th. Okay, so on the what would be the 7th of January on the Gregorian calendar, that evening, right when the sun sets, is when traditionally they light the first Hanukkah candle. So as Kislev 24 is going into Kislev 25 at sunset on January 7th, that's when they light the first candle. Okay, so that's the first day of Hanukkah. And then the second day would be the 25th as it goes into the 26th. It would be when they light the second candle. And then the third day is when the 26th is going into the 27th. That's sunset. They light what did I say? Yeah, the third candle, right? That's the last one was the second candle. This is the third candle. And then on January 10th, right, which is the date we're looking at here, as Kislev 27 goes into 28, that sunset, they light the fourth candle of Hanukkah. So that's the middle candle, the candle that represents Jesus Christ, the candle that represents the door. He is the door. So very interesting. Okay, so I mentioned all this here. I didn't mention this. It's also that January 10th is also a Wednesday, which is also the fourth day of the week. So there's a lot of four being telegraphed or signaled here, right? Four being the door, of course, the Hebrew letter dalet, which resembles a door. And bringing it back to that number 119, Genesis 1, verse 19, 119, is, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So that's just piling on at this point. You got the fourth day of the week, fourth day of creation, fourth candle on the menorah in Hanukkah. And the other thing is that there's a bunch of other connections to John chapter 10, which is where Jesus is at Hanukkah. He says, it says, I forget the verse number, but it says Jesus was at the feast of the dedication and it was winter. Or it says, it was the feast of the dedication and it was winter. And that's John chapter 10 going into 11. So that's another coincidence, maybe, that we're talking about January 10th going into the 11th, and that's John 10 going into John 11. Okay, so the next thing is something I was thinking about. Why was the number 276 chosen by God? Why did he put this celestial sign at 276 degrees of ecliptic longitude? And the answer is right here. So 2 times 7 times 6 is equal to 84. That's one reason, okay? And remember, 84 means dedication or Hanukkah. Okay, this is amazing. And then if you look at 276 degrees as part of this 360 degree circle, it's 84 degrees shy of a full circle. It's 84 degrees away from 360, because 360 minus 276 is 84. Okay, so let's put this all together. Okay, you've got this amazing sign that is described in Acts 27 and 28 and in 28, and it's using a number that not only describes a sign but also hides another number, which is 84, which is, it really only means two things. It means, in the Bible, this number, it means Hanukkah, aka dedication, or Enoch, right? Because Enoch in Hebrew is 84. And if you add those 14 days of tarrying that it mentions in Acts 27 and 28 and in other ways that I showed, right, in hidden ways, that takes you right to the middle of Hanukkah on the correct calendar, on God's calendar, as I've explained in past videos. By the way, if anybody wants that explanation, like a link back to one of those videos where I show how God's calendar really works, how the months really work, just ask me in the comment sections and I'll reply with the link to the video. So this is astounding to me. I mean, it just lines up so perfectly. This sign and the tearing and everything. It's all just, everything clicks into place. It's like pure perfection. Now, if the rapture doesn't happen on that day, I'm going to feel pretty silly. But I've felt pretty silly in the past because I've been wrong many times. But I hope you guys, I explained this well, and you guys can, wrap your head around this, because it's marvelous. It really is marvelous. Okay, so the next thing, just to add to that, Esther, which everybody is also talking about in connection to the rapture, because that's just a huge, typology parallel. In Esther 2:16, let's just go there real fast. Esther 2, chapter 2, verse 16. It says, "So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus." I'm sure I butchered that. "Into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tevet, in the 7th year of his reign." Okay, so Esther 2:17 is telling us typologically that the bride, is taken into the royal house, into heaven, in the 10th month. Well, going back to that calendar converter I have here, January 10th, Kislev 27, that's the last day of Tevet on the official Jewish calendar. Isn't that interesting? That's amazing. So, and then, I think I mentioned this before already, but there are 39 books in the Old Testament and 27 in the New Testament. So the numerical relation there, or the arithmetic relationship there, is fairly straightforward. 3 times 9 equals 27. So you've got a 3 and a 9 and 27. And the rapture resurrection event, which the Bible is always talking about, is, let's say, foreshadowed or by the sign that involves the 3rd and the 9th constellations from Acts 27. So you got your 3 and your 9 and 27. And if we're right about this tering period, then it would happen in the 3rd and 9th month, because remember, the 9th month in the pre-Exodus time was the 3rd month, right before they moved it, on the 27th day, parenthetically, of the 9th month. So you got your 3 times 9 is 27, 39, 27 for the Old Testament books and the New Testament books. 3rd and 9th constellations of Acts 27, the multi-sign, Castor and Pollux. And the 3rd and 9th month, aka Kislev, 27th day, is the structure of the Bible itself, pointing to this day and that sign of the 276 degrees. We'll find out. So let's go look at some other things. I forget, brother G44 on Twitter, really sharp dude. He found this great information. So the date we're looking at, January 10th. Now, to be specific, we're actually looking at January 10th going into the 11th. It really depends on your time zone. So if you're living in Australia or Japan, it's going to probably be the 11th. But if you're in California, it's going to be the 10th. Anyway, so January 10th happens to be the exact midpoint between the October 14th, 2023 wedding ring eclipse and the April 4th second great American eclipse. How about them apples? That's amazing. And something that Steve Fletcher, who has a YouTube channel, found recently is that if you look at the famous blood moon tetrad of 2014 and 2015, there is also another blood moon tetrad pair that happens in 2032 to 2033. The exact midpoint date of those tetrads is January 10th and January 11th. Amazingly. Now, let me see if I think I have a picture of this somewhere. This is just Steve's picture. Let me try to zoom in here. So this is what he was talking about. You've got the blood moon tetrad from, in the 2030s, and then you've got the one passed in the last decade. And I actually double checked all these dates. So if you check the middle point between these two innermost blood moons, the midpoint date was January 11th, like he says in this picture. But the midpoint date of the other 3 pairs is all January 10th. So 3 out of these 4 have a midpoint date of January 10th, 2024. And then just this middle one is January 11th, 2024. So that's great. I mean, it's basically pointing to January 10th going into the 11th, just like we're looking at by another route. That's awesome. So now let's take a look at some date counts, okay? So from the Malta sign, or the 276 sign, I'm still not sure what to call it, actually. From that sign to January 10th, like I said, is 14 days. From the wedding ring eclipse on October 14th to January 10th is 88 days. That's another significant number. Means Jesus. I think it means like end of time. Now, from the Revelation 12 sign of 2017 to January 10th is exactly 2,300 days. That's one of those Daniel numbers. I think it's found in, I don't remember, Daniel 12 or Daniel 6. I forget at the moment. That's amazing, especially in light of all the other stuff we found. Now, from September 11th, those terrorist attacks, to January 10th, 2024, this was also found by Brother G44 from Twitter, is exactly 22 years, 3 months, and 30 days. Now, if you take 22 times 33 equals 726, which is a Harpazo number. This is one of the biggies right here. From the date where Trump announced Operation Warp Speed, which was May 15th, 2020, to January 10th, 2024, is 1335 days. Which by no means proves, but implies heavily that, well, assuming that is the rapture date, that the vaccine. Oh, I guess I'm not supposed to say that word. Hopefully, I don't get blocked because of it. Was the setting up of the abomination of desolation, because we know that the temple, the true temple, is not a temple built by human hands. It's that's the New Testament revelation, right? It's the temple of the human body. So, and the abomination of desolation, I don't think happened yet, but it's if it was set up by something that was in that jab, and can be activated later, maybe through some sort of EMF signal. It's scary to think about, but from, like I said, Trump announcing Operation Warp Speed back in May 2020 to January 10th is 1335 days. And Daniel 12:11 says, "And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,330 days, 1335 days." So, what could this unspecified blessing be? Rapture? Resurrection? Sure sounds like it. Okay, so this other one, if you're old enough to remember, there was something called the Great Cross Planetary Alignment that happened. Oh, this is wrong here. I gotta fix this. Happened back in August of 1999, August 11th, 1999. To January 11th, right, of 2024 is exactly 24 years and 153 days. You got your 153 fish. From the final blood moon of the 2014-2015 blood moon tetrad, which was on September 28th, 2015, to the Malta sign of December 27th, 2023 is exactly 99 months. And as we've seen, 99 refers to the rapture, or to the door, the binary door. I'm just sort of fixing errors as I read this. I didn't really proofread this. I just kind of typed it up and started up the recording. Okay, this is a big one for me personally. From the Great American Eclipse of August 21st, 2017 to January 10th, 2024 is 2,333 days, which is the 345th prime. So 2333 is the 345th prime. So that brings us back to that 345 number again. Now, if you do it instead of January 10th and you go to January 11th, it's I forget exactly what it was. It was something like 333 weeks and 3 days. I'll have to double check that. I'll check my notes real fast. Yeah, that was it exactly. 333 weeks and 3 days. Which is also interesting. But I personally am more excited about the 345th prime. Okay, miscellaneous stuff. So this was also pointed out to me by brother G44 over on Twitter, because if anybody who's watched my videos since September, October timeframe knows that I've been on a hunt for this for what this 118 number means, that I've been seeing or noticing in news and stuff like that, news events and other places. And if you reduce the date 1/10/2024, if you just apply a normal reduction to it, it reduces down to 118. So could that have been what the 118 meant? I don't know. Hope so. Another interesting thing is 59 plus 94. So the current year on the current year on the official Jewish chronology is 5784, right? Which is off by 210 years. God still uses that number. He acknowledges it in some ways in numerology, just like he acknowledges incorrect calendar dates and stuff. Nevertheless, that's not the actual year. If you use the correct year, it's actually 5994, according to my chronology, which I've gone over in previous videos. What people call Anno Mundi, I call it Anno Fall. I made that up because it's the year of the fall, not the year of creation. The year of creation, I think, happened 7 years earlier. Anyway, 5994 Anno Fall is the current year, and 59 plus 94 equals 153. There's your 153 fish of John 21:11. Now, if you add 5 plus 9 plus 9 plus 4, you get 27. Once again, pointing to perhaps Acts 27 being fulfilled in 5994, the year 5994. This is also interesting. If you look at the Hebrew words and the Aramaic word for Hanukkah and then the Hebrew word for Hanukkah in Strong's, they're right next to each other, okay? And the Strong's numbers are 2597 and 2598. And if you add those, if you sum those numbers, like 2 plus 5 plus 9 plus 7, you get 23. And then 2 plus 5 plus 9 plus 8, you get 24. And wouldn't that be interesting? Isn't that interesting? Because we're looking at Hanukkah, which is sort of here straddling those 2 years, the 2023 and 2024. Nothing is by accident. Interestingly, the Hebrew equivalent years, right, are 5783, the official ones, right? 5783 and 5784. So there, instead of a 23 and a 24, you've got an 83 and an 84. And 83 in Hebrew gematria means Hanukkah, and 84 in Hebrew gematria, as we've said earlier, means Enoch. So either Hanukkah or Hanuk. It's just a whole lot of really, really crazy connections going on here. So I had mentioned that this 270-degree sign happened on the 27th of December. And astonishingly, 27th of December in just plain old English ordinal gematria equals 276. And if you take 27, because it's 12/27, December 27th, 12 divided by 27 equals 0.44444, going on into infinity. And we know that 4 is symbolic of the door. Now perceptually, 1227 reduces to 127, because if you're just looking at perceptual reduction, you can get rid of zeros or repeating digits. And 127 is also very, very important for the time we're in, because I guess I'll just say it like this. Okay, so the number 27, the number 127 is mentioned only twice in Scripture. Okay, the first place is in Genesis chapter 23, which is the chapter that mentions Enoch's rapture. Okay, it's in wait, did I get that right? No, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Forget about that. He was raptured in Genesis 5. Okay, it's mentioned in Genesis chapter 23, and the connection there is, the connection there is 23 for 2023, right? Because I believe that in God's eyes, it's still 2023. And then the other connection is that the other 127 is mentioned in the first verse of Esther, which we're also looking at because the Esther narrative highlights, the rapture events in a sort of a typological way. So, yeah, where was I going with that? It's mentioned twice in Scripture. And the 12, 27, 27th of December reduces perceptually to 127. Now, if you look at that number, 12 times 7, right, because it's 127, 12 times 7 equals 84, which is Enoch in Hebrew Gematria, or dedication in English Ordinal Gematria. So another thing pointing to Hanukkah. If you add 127 to its mirror image, you get 848, which is like a 84 forward and an 84 backwards, like reading from left to right and right to left, Hebrew style. Also, so it's very, everything's sort of converging and pointing, like if you reduce things down, everything sort of ends up at either a Hanukkah or an Enoch or a 2023 or a 23. This is something cool that I found. I found a nice numerical connection between these, because everybody thinks in terms of the rapture, they think number-wise, they think either 726, Harpazo Strong's number, or 153, the 153 fish of John 21:11. I noticed that if you take the mirror image of 726, which is 627, and then you subtract from it the mirror image of 153, which is 351, you get 276. I don't think anybody's ever found that before. But that gives you a nice, direct, I guess you can say. There are other ways to make a connection between those numbers. Actually, I don't know if there's other ways. But anyway, that's a nice direct numerical connection. Moving along. So, 110, January 10th in Europe, and I don't know, I guess other places in the world, is written as 10-1, which is like 101, the door. Got the door again. And this is another thing mentioned by brother G44 over on Twitter. He mentioned that, so if this thing is going down and over the entire face of the earth, it's going to be some, depending on your time zone, either the 10th or the 11th of January. And using this European style of writing, you've got the 10.1 or the 11.1. It looks like, he pointed out, it's kind of like the door is open, right? And then, on the 10th, and then on the 11th, it's closed, right? Because you got the 1 in the middle there. I thought that was brilliant. That's really cool. I'll say this, if it doesn't happen on this date, a lot of perfection is being left on the table. I'll just say that. It would be a shame, just from a standpoint of like numerical and scriptural perfection. But if it doesn't happen, we know God, that He's going to offer us even greater perfection from in whatever date it does end up happening. Brother G44 also pointed out that because we're looking at 110, Strong's Greek 110 is Athanasia, which means immortality. How about that? I like it. I'll take it. The next thing is that date is Kislev 27 going into 28. Now, Kislev 28 is 9/28 because Kislev is the 9th month. 28th day, 9/28. If you take 9/28 and subtract its mirror image, you get 99. That's our rapture. That's our binary door. Now, if you take the number of verses in Esther, which is 167, and you add its mirror image, which is 761, you get 9/28. Kislev 28. Does Esther get fulfilled on 928? Now, if you take 928 and add to it 125 for Revelation 12:5, you get 1053. That's our 153 fish. And then finally, this is great. This is something that Brother G44 showed me, or discovered, I should say. 9 times 28 equals 252. Well, what's 252? It refers to Proverbs 25:2. Let's take a look at that. Proverbs 25:2. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. And on that note, I guess I will end the video. First of all, I just want to give all gratitude and glory to our Father in heaven, who so graciously grants it to us to know and understand these marvelous hidden things. And yeah, to everyone else, I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions or comments, drop it in the comment section. And thank you so much for sticking it out to the end. God bless. Hey guys, I just wanted to add something real fast before I uploaded this to YouTube. First of all, I did go and after I made the video, I went and checked to see when the last time the moon was in Gemini, when the sun is at 276 degrees of longitude. And that was 2004. But Jupiter was not in the same position. It was nowhere near Aries, the first constellation. So it wasn't in that top position on the cross. Okay. And then I also checked the next time that arrangement will happen with the moon in Gemini and the sun at 276 degrees. And that happens in 2042. That's the next time. But again, the planet Jupiter will be nowhere near Aries, the first constellation. So this, I guess, instance of this celestial arrangement here in 2023 was unique in that aspect. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how rare, I guess, the arrangement of just the moon and the sun in that position is, and it seems like maybe every 40 years or so, if that was any, if what happens between 2004 and 2042 is a representative example. And then if you add on top of that the Jupiter having to be, in that position of the first constellation, Aries, then of course it's much, much rarer. How rare, I don't know, but much, much rarer than every 40 years, I'll tell you that. And if somebody wants to check that in their free time, that'd be great. So there's that. And the other thing I wanted to point out, which I thought was very, very cool, is that, so you know how we showed that at that time of the multisign, okay, so when the sun was at 276 degrees, right here at this mast, that was December 27th, 2023. Okay, and then I was talking about a 14-day tering. Well, look what happens, and because remember at that time on December 27th, the moon was on the other side of the ecliptic, over there, exact other side, right? Like at the Gemini constellation. So exactly 14 days. Well, I shouldn't say exactly 14 days, and then like minus a few hours, right? After the sun left that position at the mast here, right? So in those last 14 days, the moon has been traveling around the ecliptic, and now here, almost 14 days, I think it's like 14 days minus like a few hours, the moon arrives also at that position in the mast. So of all the places where of all the, like, I guess I should say, the amount of days it could take for the moon, because I mean the moon of inevitably was going to arrive at this position because the sun and moon travel around the ecliptic. But of all the number of days it could take to arrive there, it happened to be 14. So I just thought I'd let you know that. I think that's very encouraging, to our other, hints about the 14-day tering. The other thing, which is pretty cool, I also forgot to mention, was that. So I don't know if you guys know this, but the planet Mercury. Okay, I'll just highlight it there with the red reticule. It's known as the messenger planet. So, I mean, I guess it's because like when Mercury does a retrograde motion, which means the retrograde movement is when the planet, because the planet like goes along the ecliptic, but then it might sometimes appear to go backwards, like and do a little loop. that's called retrograde motion. And so when Mercury does that, it's usually like highlighting something. So it's letting you know, okay, pay attention. I'm highlighting something. I'm doing a retrograde. Pay attention to what the other planets are doing, where they're doing it, what constellations they're in, and so forth, and so on and so forth, right? And it's like there's some sort of message there. That's why they call it the messenger planet. Check out. So I backed up here to November. Check out, and I'm going to move forward day by day. Check out what Mercury does here in the context of this ship, right? Which is, about to have a major sign. All right, so watch what Mercury does, okay? Mercury the messenger. Now, Mercury's got a red reticule around it. Here comes Mercury, okay? Red reticule goes around, does the retrograde motion around the mast. Sun hits the mast. And then, way too fast to see. I'll have to back that up. But then you see the moon zoom by. I have to do that by hour. Otherwise, if I do it by day, it's too fast. But the moon hits the mast, okay? And then it's gone. And then right after it hits the mast, escapes from the ship, Mars hits the mast, god of war, right? So is that implying something? Probably. It seems like a rapture and sudden destruction, probably. But let me back up and show that again. So here comes Mercury. Mercury does a retrograde motion, delivering the message, retrograde around the mast. Here comes the sun hitting it, December 27th. Boom! There goes the moon flying by, right to left. 110 to 111. By 111, it's gone. And then Mars hits it. And then Mercury continues its normal direction of movement. Anyway, that's one I wanted to show you guys. Thanks again.